Welcome back to the show, Brandon Smith. Good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you, Steven.
Yeah, episode 60. We're in September. This
Labor
is
Day.
Labor Day. And excited to have our guest in studio today, Adam.
Hey guys,
What's
happy
up, bro?
to be here. Thanks for having me.
Dude, thanks for dressing up for us.
Yeah, of course.
Is your whole wardrobe from TJ Maxx or what?
You know, I've gone upgrading a little bit. I've got some Shields jeans on today
Whoa.
and a Target tee, so getting a little fancier.
So no more sweats or what?
I mean, it's a little too hot for sweats right now.
Okay.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Well, let's start with this. What kind of product do you put into your hair to make it look so good?
Mostly grease.
When's the last time you cut your hair?
Ooh, that's a good question. I probably like 6 months ago or maybe more. I don't even remember, to be honest with you.
Any product in there?
Yeah, a little bit.
How do you get your wife to accept you with long hair?
She
That's
actually-
a serious
no,
question
ser-
because my wife is like, go get a haircut right now. And she's like begging me every day. So I want to know your secrets.
My wife, Brittany, loves my hair. I even like
Mm.
regularly, I'm like, should I cut my hair? I think I'm ready. And she's like, no, she loves it. It's the funniest thing. So this is driven by her. I started it, right? But I'm no longer going to take credit because she won't let me cut it.
Based on social media, it looks like your daughters really enjoy your hair as well.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a pretty good Barbie, pretty good life-sized Barbie with a dad bod.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I want to jump into a lot of different topics today, but I think the biggest thing that I want to know, let me start that over. Brandon, you take this question as I gather my thoughts.
All right.
I went through like
So
three
we're
steps.
going to start where Steven wanted to start, and I have no clue what that was. You're originally from Polson, is that correct?
That's correct.
Elementary, middle school, high school?
Yeah.
Polson Pirate?
I was a Polson pirate through and through. I guess I still am a Polson pirate.
I
Right?
mean,
You're no
technically-
Once a pirate, always a pirate.
I think Polson, your guys' old gym, was one of the coolest gymnasiums in the state of Montana. It's a bummer that it's gone.
Totally, it was cool. And I haven't been to the new one. I've just seen pictures.
Yeah, I miss the old one.
Yeah, the old
It's one
one
of my
was
favorites.
classic.
Totally.
Why would you give up Flathead Lake for beautiful Missoula?
That's a great question. Full disclosure, I would prefer to live in Polson for sure, but we built a business in Missoula and we're kind of stuck ourselves here to some degree, a little bit tough to walk away.
Growing up in Polson, what was the dream for Adam? Who did you want to become? What did you want to do?
I don't even really know or remember. I think I wanted to be some kind of a business owner or entrepreneur, but I didn't really have a whole lot of clarity on that. I also really wanted to be a rock star.
Makes sense.
Which is,
You look like a rock star.
Yeah, thank you.
With a dad bod.
So, I did grow up playing a lot of music and stuff, but I also was really into like business, finance, I like where the like creativity kind of matches like finance and reality. So kind of have a little bit of left brain, right brain thing going on.
When did that develop? Were your parents in business or
Yeah.
how does a teenager or younger start to be interested in finance?
Right. So I was sort of fascinated. Like I learned about the stock market fairly young. My dad was a business owner. And so I learned about the stock market fairly young. And I'm actually not like, I don't do anything in the stock market now, which is funny, but it made me sort of interested in that whole world. And I ended up getting a finance degree and actually going into that industry for a short while, which I didn't like it at all. And just kind of ended up in real estate by happenstance. There was nobody hiring, so it was like, oh, commission only jobs, that's kind of.
What was your first job?
So my very first like official job was working at Super One Foods in Polson.
Oh, that's
I
great.
was
Great
a
store.
courtesy clerk.
What'd you learn from that job that you're using today?
That working by the hour, especially at $5.15 an hour, is brutal. And having a job where kind of the sky's the limit and you get paid based on, the direct value you add is probably the way that I wanted to go.
Did you go to college?
Yep. I went to the University of Montana.
Okay.
What was that? What was the deciding factor in where you went to school?
It was the cheapest option and it was
I was
close
making
to home.
$5.15 an hour.
Yeah. It was like I didn't really like even totally consider MSU. I'm not sure why, but
Good.
it was just like
The right choice.
So, hour and a half from home, and just ended up in Missoula.
What'd you go to school for?
Finance.
Where did that take you?
So I graduated in 2008 into like the worst job market,
Right.
since the Great Depression.
Now that's making sense. Okay.
So I actually moved out to Seattle for a while, and I worked at a wealth management company. And then they laid off about a quarter of the company, like 5 months after I was hired, which included me. It was just like last in, first out kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I moved back to Montana, and I mean, nobody was hiring for like anything, even like, basic, like, minimum wage type jobs. Like it was hard to get a job.
Mm.
So I actually ended up being a mortgage lender because it was the only job I could find where they would essentially hire anyone with a pulse, because it was entirely commission based.
Sure.
So, I took a job.
So they'd take anybody.
Yeah, totally. So I started there, and then spent a few years doing that, and eventually transitioned to selling real estate.
Okay. Why did you not like mortgage lending?
It wasn't bad. I actually learned a lot on the mortgage lending side, and I wasn't particularly successful at it. I thought real estate sounded a little more fun, like there was a little more opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's good and bad. Like mortgage lenders tend to have a little bit better office hours. Especially beginning realtors don't have office hours. They just work 7 days a week or whenever. I'm much better about, having those limitations and not really working weekends or evenings now. But I don't know. I just thought there was a little bit, more potential probably for me. And sometimes I make these decisions and I don't put a lot of thought into them.
Were you married at the time?
Yes.
Okay. So when you told your wife you're going to take a semi-stable job and go into a very unstable job, historically in real estate, what were those conversations like? Was that a pretty big leap of faith?
She's always supportive of everything I do, like to the point of where sometimes she needs to tell me that I'm being stupid and she won't.
She just believes in you?
Yeah, she just totally believes in me, which is amazing. I love Brittany. She's just like the best, most supportive wife. But once in a while, she should probably tell me to stop doing stupid things. But
what is one of those stupid things that you've done?
I don't know. I mean, I guess things have worked out, but like she's just so supportive of me. Like I could tell her like, hey, this whole real estate thing, it's a little overwhelming. I think I want to be an astronaut. And like, she wouldn't tell me that was stupid. So there's just, there has to be like some sideboards on that, but she's so supportive, which is amazing.
Is she a risk taker in her own life, or she doesn't seem like it, but maybe just lets you take all the risk?
I think that's it. I don't think she's a big risk taker. And I'm like a calculated risk taker for the most part, but, yeah, I actually did terrible my first year in real estate. I lost $8,000. So I was trying to be a mortgage lender at the same time. I was on the Missoula City Council, which is like a part-time job. So I made a little bit of a salary, and I was doing like various odd jobs, like painting houses and stuff, and trying to be a realtor. So I lost $8,000 my first year trying to be a realtor. And by the end of that year, I was like, Brittany, I'm going to quit. Like this isn't working out. And she just gave me this epic pep talk about like how I could stick it out and I was going to be successful and everything. And like pretty much, beginning the next year, I just took off and started doing really well with it.
You said Missoula City Council.
Mm-hmm.
What was that experience like? And why? Why did you do that?
Another one of those like didn't give it much thought kind of things. Like I barely even knew what the city council did. We had just built a house, and I went through the permitting process of building a house and like, paying the impact fees and the permitting fees. And I thought, this is outrageous. Like, this is crazy. Somebody needs to fix this. And then I figured out that it was like a function of the city of Missoula, and they had a city council. And so I ran for city council, and I was elected by 5 votes. I unseated an incumbent, and I was 26 years old, which at the time was the youngest person to ever be elected to the Missoula City Council.
And you had no idea what you were doing?
I didn't really know what I was doing, but it turns out that it's just like gathering information and making decisions. So it wasn't really that complicated. I spent probably the first year mostly asking questions and not having strong opinions. And then, then I spent the next 3 years having very strong opinions.
I'd imagine you learn a lot, just the infrastructure of
totally
the city and how it works and operates, and relationships and connections that I'd assume hindsight probably grateful for
Yeah.
those 4 years.
It was super interesting. It's important work. I actually did turn out to really enjoy it.
Mhm.
And now I do real estate development, and a lot of the things that I learned on city council translate well to real estate development. And yeah, I met a lot of people. I wasn't like a good networker at the time. I was pretty introverted. So I didn't make like the kind of connections that you would think somebody in that position would, because I just wasn't good at it.
Is it accurate that all the roundabouts in Missoula are due to you? That was your decision.
I'm a huge fan of road diets and roundabouts. You can blame me for every single one of them.
Good to know.
Not actually. That's definitely fake.
What's your email so we can send all the hate?
Yeah, seriously.
You know.
Don't come slash my tires.
So I like city council, and for some reason I'm having a hard time asking questions today. I don't know what's going on.
Do you want me to just keep reading your mind?
Yeah, Brandon, were you asking that? No, just kidding. Why do most people get on city council? Like, is it a networking thing? Is it a political thing, a power thing, or is it just like they really want to make a difference? Is there like a vibe?
I think it's like they really truly want to make a difference. It's it's a political thing for sure. It's technically nonpartisan, but it's pretty partisan down there. But yeah, I think most people who are on city council are well-intended and want to make positive change in the city. And I don't necessarily agree with what they do, particularly now. The city council, I think, is kind of off the rails on a lot of things. But I think everyone that, was ever on city council with me was well-intended about it.
Sure.
Did you want to take politics further after city council?
I took it a little bit further. So I ran for the state legislature and served one term in the state legislature, which I really enjoyed. Like, that's just a whole different world of policy. And I was in the political majority at the time, which made things a lot easier to actually get things done.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed that, but it's just it's a hard thing to do when, you're younger and have a family. That was before my kids were in school. Mm-hmm. And so you actually have to uproot and move to Helena for 4 months during the legislative session. So we moved the whole family there, which was it was cool and it was fun, and it wasn't, a very good financial decision, but it was
lost another $8,000.
It was a good opportunity for sure. And we really enjoyed it. And we made some of the best friends that we've ever had over there, and got some good policy work done. But I couldn't continue to do that. Just kids got into school, and, I didn't want like Brittany and the kids to be in Missoula and me to be in Helena.
Brittany must be pretty amazing, because you're 2 for 2 on decisions that have had a negative return financially, negative impact. So,
yeah.
So where'd you go from there after politics, city council?
So I was still selling real estate at the time,
Okay.
Because neither of those were, full-time jobs. I think city council at the time, paid like $11,000 a year. And I want to say the state legislature was like $11.70 an hour plus a housing stipend or something. Like, terrible financial decisions, really. But just
hence the TJ Maxx.
Yeah, totally. That's why I was
got
wearing TJ Maxx sweatpants last time. So Brittany actually owned a property management company with her twin sister, and they sold it right when I was starting in the state legislature. And so Brittany was a stay-at-home mom essentially while we were in Helena for like those 4 months, and then she joined me selling real estate right after that. So that's when we kind of officially had a real estate team. And now we've just grown that team and continued to do really the same thing.
So from that early year when you lost $8,000 and then you started getting some momentum, what was the biggest thing that started to get the business going? Did you just learn a bunch of stuff, or did you change something specific?
Yeah, at that time, I was one of the first people buying Zillow leads in Missoula. So I started buying Zillow leads, which now, a lot of agents hate Zillow and talk a lot of trash about Zillow. But back then it was like, if you got on Zillow and you were looking at houses and you clicked on one and wanted to talk to somebody, I could get your information. And it was pretty inexpensive because it was like me and I think one other agent at the time in Missoula that were buying Zillow leads. And so I started working those leads really hard, and that was kind of the turning point for my business. And then it starts to snowball. Real estate's, just one of those businesses that, you serve somebody well, they refer you to a friend or family member, and then it just starts to kind of snowball. And now I'm over 11 years into it. And so it's just really snowballed almost out of control, to be honest with you.
Let's go to our rapid fire questions and then come back to the real estate story and where you're going from here.
I love it.
Okay. First question for you, Adam. What is your earliest initial memory of Missoula, Montana?
So growing up in Polson, we came to Missoula as the big city to go shopping for like school clothes and that kind of stuff. But this is going to be funny for anyone who's too young to remember it. But I remember Missoula smelling so terrible. It smelled so bad. It was from the pulp mill in Frenchtown, I think. And I just remember as a kid, the smell of Missoula was my first memory.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I remember that. Yeah. Thank you. What's your go-to coffee spot in Missoula?
Ooh, there's a lot of good ones. I think Drum Coffee is probably my favorite.
Okay. You got a specific location? Hit 'em both?
Whichever one I'm by, but we tend to make most coffee at home.
Cool.
Still pretty fiscally conservative, you know.
$11.15 an hour. You got to be. Favorite restaurant in Missoula?
Zutai.
Oh, yeah. I just ate there the other night.
It's so good.
What's your go-to dish?
Best.
I like the cow soy.
Okay. All right. What is the weirdest thing about Missoula to you?
The weirdest thing about Missoula. I mean, this is what's weird about Missoula, but it's also what's great about Missoula is the people. There's just interesting characters.
What zip code do you live in?
59808.
What do you love most about Missoula?
I would go back to probably the people in the community. Just like there's a great community here.
Is there a book you've read that has made a significant impact on your life?
The Millionaire Real Estate Agent by Gary Keller was definitely a game changer for me.
What about it?
It was just the perfect book for the place I was in business at the time. I was like struggling with growing pains and not knowing where to go next. And it's just the absolute blueprint to like create a real estate team, to go from being like an agent with a job to turning that job into an actual business. And it's the blueprint for that. And it was amazing.
What year did you start real estate?
2013.
Okay. So you've seen highs and lows and all different economies and inflation. What are some of the personal life lessons you've learned from the real estate industry?
I think one of the biggest life lessons is just really having to like schedule out your time for everything and making time, because I mean, the reality is in real estate, I could work 100 hours a week and stay busy if I wanted to. And so just, setting aside time for your marriage and for your kids and for extended family and for all of those kinds of things. And just, not chasing the next deal, but just making sure that everything's just, there's a little bit of everything, enough to go around.
And you and your wife, you have built and developed a full team now. It's not just the two of you, correct?
Right.
Tell us about your team, what you guys are doing. And
yeah, so it's mostly a family team. It's Brittany and I, and then her identical twin sister, Carly, my sister, Kristen, who covers Polson and the Flathead area. Our niece, Madison, who's newer to the business. She's doing awesome.
Wow.
And
There's a lot of family.
Yeah, totally. And then aside from sort of the core family members, we have a Hayden Homes team. So there's a team of 3 agents that specifically represent Hayden Homes, which is a regional home builder out of Bend, Oregon. And those 3, they staff a model home out at O'Keefe Ranch Estates and kind of operate as their own little business entity. And then we also have 2 virtual assistants.
Wow. What was that like going from salesperson to leading a team? Like, how did you have to level up, and in what ways did that challenge you?
Yeah. So like that was really, I mentioned the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. That was really the blueprint to do that. And I don't, follow that to an exact T. But it was like, I had to learn about how to like people leverage, essentially. Like, why do something, if your value is whatever, $200 an hour, why do a $15 an hour job?
Mm-hmm.
So learning how to like delegate tasks and hire people and see what the most, figure out how to use my time in the most valuable way.
So what do you do? What's a average day look like for you? Where are you spending your time?
I'm all over the place right now. So I'm flipping some homes. I do real estate development. I build multifamily real estate. I've done land development and townhomes and other things like that. I'm working on a condo project right now. So I have a lot of those kinds of things going on. I'll remodel apartment units that we own. And so I'm playing general contractor for part of the day. I sell real estate still. I think personally, I'll probably sell like 30 to 40 million in real estate this year, just myself. And then I also do all the administrative work. So I'm cutting like, paychecks and paying the bills and like, I'm not a broker, but I'm acting as, kind of broker support. So agents on the team have an issue or a question or something, I'm answering those questions and helping them out. I don't tend to work with buyers very often unless they're commercial buyers because they take up a lot of time. So I tend to refer those to people on the team. But I still do residential listings too, and then commercial listings.
What kind of is the pulse right now with real estate in Missoula, and where do you see it going?
Sales volumes are way down, and that's just a function of interest rates. So demand is down, supply is down, so sales volume is down. For our team, sales volume is up, which is really just a function of the things we do to get the business and, our track record and our history. But overall, as a market, sales volume is down. I think as rates come down, which they're projected to do, sales volumes will start to increase. I don't see prices coming down really. I mean, I think we've probably bottomed out because those lower interest rates will create more demand. And people want to live in Missoula. We saw a huge influx of people from 2020 to 2022 coming from out of state. So we're not seeing that influx anymore, but there's still some people coming from out of state. I think the next kind of boom is going to be the move up buyers, the people that have, a 3.5% interest rate and have not wanted to move into a larger house at a 7.5 or 8% interest rate.
Strong, yeah.
Yeah, they're totally holding strong. They can't afford to move into a larger house, but maybe they're bursting at the seams. They've, got a few kids now. I think when rates come down into the fives, which I suspect they'll be in the fives by next year, I think a lot of those people are going to be more likely to be moving up. And so selling those starter homes and moving into kind of the middle of the market. So I think the market's just going to get busier from here on out.
I've always wondered this. You hear these statistics. There's like 700 or 800 realtors in Missoula. I don't know if that's accurate. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But there's a lot of realtors in the United States. And in your opinion, what's the difference between a person that sells 1 or 2 homes a year, 3 homes a year, and just kind of scrapes by, and to where you've gotten in your position where 30 million projected? What's the difference between those? And maybe it's not rocket science.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're probably right about that number. I don't know the exact statistic, but it's probably 700 or 800 people. I think any market you look at, whether it's Missoula or anywhere else, generally the statistic I hear is that like 20% of the agents do 80% of the business, the 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
It might even be, a fewer number of agents doing even a higher percentage right now because it's a more challenging time. So, I mean, I think the blueprint to real estate is not complicated, but it requires a lot of ambition and self-motivation because there's nobody just telling you what to do. It's not a 9 to 5, punch the time clock kind of a job. You have to have a lot of self-motivation, and you have to treat it like you're owning and operating a business rather than acting as an employee in a job. And I think a lot of people have a hard time running it as a business, that you have to invest in it. You have to invest your time in it. You have to invest your money in it. You have to come up with a business plan and a marketing plan and execute on all of that in order to build a business. And it's a long game. Like I said, I lost $8,000 my first year. I didn't make a whole lot more my second year, but by the third year, it started to build. And then, by year 7, it was snowballing because the people you sold houses to, now wanted to list them and buy something different. And so, I think it's not rocket science. It's just a matter of having a good blueprint and putting in the work and providing exceptional customer service. We pride ourselves on just making sure that every deal goes well and people are happy because they're our future source of business and they're referring us to our future sources of business. And so that extreme level of customer service is super important to us, that we know how to serve our clients and that we know the market really well. And that's where it starts to snowball. That's when we can bring more people in and teach them to do what we do and start sharing our business with them.
Looking back at the last 11 years, if you could go back, would you do it again?
Yeah, I've loved it. I mean, it's been great. I'm thrilled with where we are and love all the people we meet and the clients we work with. And it's been cool.
So say sitting across the desk from you is a young, just out of college, 22-year-old Adam Hertz. Curious about getting into real estate. What advice would you give your former self or that young entrepreneur who's just starting?
I would join a team if you can. I would join a team or start as an assistant if you can. When I started, that wasn't an option. Nobody could afford an assistant because the market was pretty bad. Sure. And teams weren't really a thing around here. There wasn't too many people with real estate teams. So that's what I would tell people to do to start off. It's a lot easier if you kind of have that blueprint. There's also some, phenomenal books. The Millionaire Real Estate Agent's a good book, but it's really for someone who's been in the business for a few years. There's a whole series by a guy named David Green now. His first book's called Sold. I can't remember what the second and third one are, but I would read those 3 books front to back, like as quickly as you could if you were a new agent. Yeah,
that's awesome. Obviously you're doing a lot of things. You got a lot of irons in the fire right now with general contractor and development. What do you love the most? What do you love to do the most? And what do you see happening in the future for you and your business?
My favorite thing, I think, is ground up apartment development. So I really enjoy that process. I also enjoy the opportunity to bring more housing product to market that helps keep rents down, creates housing availability for people. So I really like that part of the business. It's a challenging market in Missoula, and it's even more difficult now with where interest rates are. But that's definitely my favorite thing to do, is just see that product come to fruition. It's really tangible. Feels like a true value add to the economy, and it's a social good and everything else. So I really love doing that.
Yeah, it feels meaningful.
Totally.
For you. So obviously Hayden Homes out by the Y, correct? Is that sort of where you see the development in Missoula heading that way, or what? Where's the development going to be happening around here?
Yeah, I think the county was projecting something like, I could be a little off on this number, something like 15,000 new people out in the Y area. So essentially like a whole new city, right? That's what, 3 times the size of Polson, probably, where I grew up. So the blueprint for that, they're in the planning process for that right now, going through rezoning and working on infrastructure plans and everything else. So I think that's in large part where a lot of the growth will be. But also that Mullen Road area, the couple hundred acres or whatever it was that the Doherty family has sold over the last couple of years or has for sale right now, there's going to be a ton of new housing and growth out in that direction as well. So mostly West Missoula.
Do you think we'll see commercial development out there? Are we going to see more shopping stores, gas stations, or is it just going to be residential?
I think I think that plan is going to include quite a bit of commercial development. I think the plan out in the Mullen Road area kind of missed the bus on properly including commercial. They allow commercial out there, but they didn't really sort of force it into some areas. And I think that's going to be a huge missed opportunity, because there's going to be a ton of people out there. And I think the idea of creating more of a community where you have like your coffee shops and your office space and your breweries and things that people can walk to would have made that a really incredible area. But I think instead it's going to result in a lot of people just having to hop in their vehicles and drive to the North Reserve area. Yeah. So I think the city kind of missed the boat on the way that was planned.
But traffic's not an issue out that way at all. So it'll be fine.
Right. I'm going to ride my unicorn to the magical coffee shop.
You live out that way, right?
Yeah.
How do you deal with Mullen and Reserve every single day of your life?
It's not too, I don't know. I guess I'm used to it. I don't think it's too bad. Really, what's gotten bad out there.
It's not too bad.
It might be the time of day.
Okay.
Like I think I avoid, certain times of day, but the worst thing really is the new roundabouts out there, which I don't mind the roundabouts at all. They're more functional than a traffic light if people know how to use them. But the problem with those is that when it snows and they're not like immediately plowed and sanded, it creates a traffic jam all the way up to the cemetery. Like the amount of time that it adds to taking our kids to school in the morning is crazy if it even just sprinkles a tiny bit of snow.
You all right over there?
Yeah, I was just joking.
Yeah.
And all of the growth in Missoula.
Yeah.
It was just hard to fathom. I'm glad to hear that there's not growth going out towards Lolo as much. So that makes me a little happier. Go ahead.
No, you're fine.
Oh, wow. I'm off this morning.
Adam, right.
One of those days when I'm having an off day. So do you see yourself like this is it for you guys? You're going to be a commercial builder or a commercial developer, or do you have any other big plans that Brittany's going to let you do in the future?
I'm not
Is being a rock star still on the table?
I play drums in the worship band at church. I think that's probably going to be
Because I'm feeling like this whole like Dave Grohl look right now. I'm sure you get that all the time.
At church. It's so funny. I'll be done playing the drums, and after church, someone will be like, "You know who you look like?" I'm like, "There's always going to be two answers. It's either Jesus or Dave Grohl."
So fun.
I toured in a rock band for a few years and stuff, and got most of that out of my system. But I love playing drums in the worship band at church. It's awesome, super meaningful.
Yeah. So what is next for you and Brittany and family, or what is the dream?
I don't know. We're kind of just doing what we're doing. I'd like to level up my real estate development game, but I don't know what that looks like, and I don't know that that's necessarily in Missoula. Maybe reaching out to other markets. Doesn't mean we'd be moving, just reaching out to other markets and kind of learning those markets. But super content right now with where we are, which isn't, my whole life it's been like go, like build. But I'm just super content right now.
I think it's awesome. I admire that when people get to a place of just enough. If this is as good as it gets, we're pretty blessed. Like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
This is really cool.
Absolutely.
I want to follow up on three things. One, do you have like a specific mentor that's helping you with any questions, or are you just reading books and figuring it out as you go?
I think the cool thing, like within the real estate industry, is that the company that we work at, ERA Lambros, has always just had this culture of mentorship that, like, whether an agent's been there, for a longer time than you have or not, like, we can all learn stuff from each other. So I've just learned a lot from everybody who's there. A lot of books and podcasts. And then, my dad's always been a great business mentor. He's not in the real estate industry, but he's been really successful in business and, has a great track record. And so he's always been super helpful. And then, Brittany and I are always teaching each other stuff and feeding off of each other, and we make a great team. People always ask me like, "Oh, what's it like working with your wife? That's got to be hard." I'm like, it's the best decision we've ever made. It made us so much closer. It made our marriage stronger. We love working together. It's just been an incredible blessing. I wouldn't have it any other way.
That's amazing. A lot of people can't do it. I'm glad that you can. What does she bring to the business that's so helpful for the team?
Brittany is incredible at sales and customer service. So she's always our top producer on the residential side of things. She just really knows the market. She's great at what she does. She gets more referrals, I think, than anybody I've ever met in real estate. And that's just a testament of what a great job she does. I mean, I get some referrals. Everyone on our team gets some referrals, but like, Brittany comes out of every transaction like with a new best friend, right? And like an absolute fan. And they go tell their friends and family, how great she was. And so she's built a huge referral network from just doing a phenomenal job. She doesn't do any of the behind the scenes stuff, nothing on the financial side or anything. She trusts me 100% with all of that. She just loves selling real estate.
It's a good teammate.
It's awesome.
Last question. We kind of brushed over it for some reason. You were in a rock band. Tell us some stories from that. What was the band's name and where did you go? What did you do?
A long time ago, I was in a band back in the day in Missoula called the Sharktopus, and we toured pretty solidly for like 3 years. The Sharktopus. We were like in the like you really get down to it, it would have been like, they called it post-hardcore back then, but kind of like a screamo band, and we toured a lot, like all over the country, played hundreds of shows, opened for some pretty big bands, played on Warped Tour, at the Gorge.
No way.
And I looked like way less of a rock star back then. I was like pretty clean cut.
Who'd you open for? Who were some of the?
So like in that genre, so we opened for bands like A Skylit Drive, The Devil Wears Prada. Gosh, I'd have to think through like some of this.
Our producer Nick's like, yeah.
Nick knows these bands.
I'd
have to like think back
That's
to
wild.
Some of these bands. A Day to Remember, Sky Eats Airplane.
What is it? Seems like everybody it's like a Missoula thing. Everybody in Missoula has history.
Just weird history.
With the music industry of bands, some underground, like just.
Yeah, it was a fun time.
Did you leave the band or did the band dissolve?
I left a little bit early, but then, came back together and the band did dissolve.
Okay.
Yeah.
Rest in peace.
Are you guys
Charlie.
on Spotify, or is there any?
It's on Spotify and iTunes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll load some of that music
Yeah, well,
up into
You might
that.
not want to like open the show with it. But.
That's awesome. That's so great.
That's beautiful.
You said you had 3 questions. Is that all 3?
I think I nailed it. Yeah.
All right. You and your wife, do you separate business and home life, or is it just who you are? And it's just, if you're talking work at 9 o'clock, it's totally normal. And it's just,
Yeah, I mean, we do a pretty good job of separating it. Like we're not just always work, but it's not off limits by any means. Like if something comes to your head at 9 o'clock at night and you're like, oh, I meant to ask Brittany this, or she meant to ask me this, we definitely will talk about it. But we try not to have it like fully consume our lives. But somebody told me early on when I became a realtor that real estate's not a career, it's a lifestyle. And I think that's actually like one of the best explanations of it I've ever heard.
do you binge watch any real estate shows on Netflix or Hulu?
Don't watch any real estate shows. Pretty rarely even watch any TV. We're just so busy. We have 3 daughters and, busy business, and don't really watch much at all.
I'd highly recommend Selling Sunset.
I think my sister.
Don't even say
I think
no.
my sister watches that.
I'm sure the ladies in the office.
Yeah, I come home sometimes. My wife's watching it. And she like turns it off real quick. She's like, I don't know what I was doing.
Yeah,
But that's what I
addictive.
perceive when I watch it.
that's totally what
That's
our
what I'm
lifestyle's
like.
like.
That's
Yeah,
Adam Hertz right
100%.
there. So, dude, thanks for coming on. Just
Thanks for
sharing,
having me.
your story, your background, and what you guys have going. And,
Always a pleasure.
I admire that part of what drives you is just impacting others, whether housing or their finances, or I think it's admirable that you guys do what you do because of other people, and yeah, applaud that.
Yeah, keep doing what you're doing, man.
Thanks, guys. You
Appreciate
too.
it.
Appreciate it.
What's up, Missoula? This is Nick Balla, producer of the Missoula podcast. We truly appreciate you hanging out with us as we dive into the stories that make our city special. If you could do us a quick favor and follow the show wherever you are listening, whether that's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, maybe you're watching on YouTube, so hit that little subscribe button. It really helps us out. Head on over to www.themissoulapodcast.com for more information, and we'll see you next week.